I'm sorry I can't be there today to help you with the review for the practice test, but what I am going to do is in the video, I'm going to go through all of the steps and all of the answers for all of the questions on the practice test. So if you have your practice test, can you please take it out and have it on your desk and follow along as we go through each question. If you don't have your practice test with you, I have provided some extra copies, and those are in the red folder that your teacher has. That way you could follow along on a blank copy. If you find also, after we've gone through this test once and you filled all the answers in, that you would like a blank copy of it to try it again to study from, that's really the best way to study for a math test, is to keep going through it over and over again and trying the same problems, especially when you know the answers and you can check them and make sure you're doing them right. So I really encourage you to get a blank copy or to write down the questions again. If you're home and you want a blank copy, you can go to the website and you can print off a copy from there also, okay? So let's start with part A, and part A is your knowledge section of the test. Most of these questions are 1 mark, and you're just going to get a mark for the right answer and not for any steps or anything like that. So in this case, for part A, we have 10 marks, and I've got the first 6 here showing on the screen. Let's go through these, and these all came from the very first week of school when we did the review on the skills, the basic math skills that you needed for this course. So, number 1, if we follow Bedmus, we need to do the brackets first. The brackets are 6 minus 3, so we know that's equal to 3. And you should have one equal sign per line on the left of the line, as on the left of the page as you're doing your solution. So Bedmus now says that if there's no brackets left and no exponents, the next thing we have to do is dividing and multiply. So we do have a multiplying. This here says negative 2 times 3, so we get negative 6 there, plus 1. And now we're down to adding and subtracting, so we just go from left to right. 5 minus 6, 5 positives, 6 negatives. The negatives win by 1. And if we have 1 negative and 1 positive, we end up with an answer of 0 there. So make sure that you have all of that recorded, all the lines of the solution, all the steps showing on your practice test, okay? Let's move on over to number 2. And with number 2, we have brackets. So the B part has to be done first. 5 minus 3 is 2. And we have an exponent of 2. So that will be our next step. So 2 plus 5 times 2 squared. And 2 squared is 4. So if I do the multiplying now, the 5 times 4 is 20. And the last step is just add them all up. 2 plus 20 is 22, minus 4 is 18. All right, number 3 is testing your skills with integers. If we have 5 negatives and 7 positives, the positives win by 2. For question 4, we're multiplying integers. If we have a negative times a negative, that makes a positive. And 3 times 5 is 15. So that's all you have to do there. For question 5, if we have a positive divided by a negative, then your overall answer will be negative. And 81 divided by 9 is 9. And the last one on this page, on this section, is adding up all sorts of negative and positive numbers. So if we do them one step at a time, The first section says 5 negatives, 8 positives. So the positives win by 3. Don't try to do it all in one step because that's when it's easy to make a mistake. Now if we have 3 positives and 12 negatives, the negatives win by 9. And now we have 9 negatives and 4 more negatives. So altogether, 13 negatives. So that's our final answer. I know that you're not getting marks for the steps, but I still think it's really important for you to put the steps in so that you don't make a mistake with your negatives there. All right, let's look at the other questions from part A. They're over on the next page. Here we go. So questions 7 through 10 on part A. When you're doing a question like number 7 and you've got numbers and you've got variables, the best way to do these is to pull it apart. Take 6 times 3, that equals 18, and then take a cubed times a squared. Sorry, it's hard to write on this screen with a stylus. And if we use our exponent laws there, we're going to keep the base the same. So we're multiplying powers with the same base, keep the base the same, and add the exponents. So if we put all of this together, we get 18 a to the exponent 5 for our final answer. And I think that's really the easiest way to do it. For question 8, we have a base in the bracket and then another exponent on the whole thing. The 6 is for everything in the bracket. So again, I think it's easier if we take it apart, because one of the mistakes I see all the time on questions like this are that people forget that the 2 also has the exponent of 6 on it. So if I take it apart and I write it as 2 separate things, I'm going to get 2 to the 6 as well as x to the 4th to the 6th. So 2 to the 6th, you can expand that as 2 times 2 times 2 and so on. That's 64. And x to the 4th to the 6th means multiply those exponents together, so that's x to the 24. So when I put the whole thing together, I end up with 64x to the exponent 24. For question 9, we're just writing fractions in lowest terms. Don't forget, if you've got your ABC calculator, you can use the fractions calculator to do these. If you don't have the fractions on your calculator, or you're still using a cell phone as a calculator, you won't be allowed to use a cell phone on a test, so you're going to have to borrow one of mine from the plastic tub behind my desk there, okay? So the easiest way to put 6 over 8 in lowest terms is to divide both of them by 2. 6 divides by 2 3 times, 8 divides by 2 4 times, so 3 over 4 is the same as 6 over 8 in lowest terms. If you're using your ABC button, you're going to put 6 over 8 into your calculator, and the minute you hit equals, it's going to automatically reduce that to lowest terms for you. The last question in section A is 24 over 50, and we want that written as a decimal. So the easiest way to change it to a decimal is to take 24 and divide by 50, because that's really what it means. Whenever we have 24 over 50, that really means dividing by. So when you do that on your calculator, you should get 0.48. So just double check that and make sure that you're getting 0.48 for your answer there. So here's part B, and now we're moving into questions that I'm going to mark the work and the steps as much as the final answer. If you don't show all of the work, then you can't get all of the marks. The other reason why you want to show all of your steps is if you make just even a little mistake and you end up with the wrong final answer, the more work that you provide and let me see your thinking and see that you understand what you're doing and you just, forgot a negative or something like that, the easier you make it for me to give you a lot more marks. You have to think about a test being out of, if a test is out of 25, let's say, every time you lose 1 mark, that's 4%. So it really, really hurts your mark every time you lose a mark for, some silly mistake, like a negative sign or something like that. So the more work that you show, the more half marks and things a teacher can give you, and the better overall you're going to end up doing on your test. So we're going to use the Donald Trump method, and we're going to solve these equations, build the wall, keep the x on this side, and the 10 on that side. This plus 7 has to move over to the other side. It becomes minus 7. So I have x on this side, 3 on that side. So x equals 3 is the answer you should have there. For the next one, build the wall, keep the m on this side, the 9 on this side, and the minus 4 goes to the other side with the numbers. So it becomes plus 4. We have m equals 13 for our answer. Now remember, you can check your answers. If you want to check and see if your answer is correct, just put it back into the equation and see if both sides end up giving you the same answer. If they do, that's right. Number 3, if we build the wall there, we already have the x's on the x side and the numbers on the number side, but we want just one x, and if it's 5 times x right here, then we have to divide by 5 on the other side, so x equals 4 is your final answer, and you can check that too. 5 times 4 equals 20, right? And the last question on this side, if we want to solve for k, we want to keep the k on this side. We already have the 4 on this side, and this negative 3 says k divided by negative 3 on that side. So if it's dividing on the left side, then when I bring it over to the right side, it's going to multiply. Don't forget the negative, okay? It's still negative. So k equals 4 times negative 3, which is minus 12. I hope you can see that green pen. So k equals negative 12, okay? Now, I think I might stop this video because it's getting kind of long, and then we'll do part C and part D in a separate video. So just take a couple of minutes, make sure that you've got everything written down and corrected for the first 2 parts, and then when you're ready, can you ask the teacher to play the second video for the rest of the answers?